This is first free trade zone for startups in Africa. So we're going to have a few conversations here and there with Iyinoluwa Aboyeji, the founder of Itana, and get to see some of the reasons behind building a free trade zone and how that can impact the startup ecosystem in Nigeria and in Africa as well. And also for, any startup in the world can have a very safe haven place to build and to scale from.
Let's start what we have brought into the room to do.
How much of your startup success will you actually get to keep? This is a question most founders don't think about until it's too late. I got an invitation to visit something being built quietly in Lagos. And what I found changed the way I think about building a startup in Africa and from Africa. I've spent years speaking to startup founders across Africa. Founders at early stages, founders mid-growth stage, founders who have raised and those who have not raised. And one of the questions that comes up more than almost any other is, where should I incorporate? And how should I structure my business to actually protect what I'm building? When Nigeria crypto laws changed a few years ago, I watched founders scramble, moving their companies overnight to countries like Estonia, to Cyprus, to Singapore. Not because those were the best options, but because those were the options they knew about at the time. But what if those options are already costing founders more than they realize? Now, imagine having the jurisdiction of Delaware, the infrastructure of Singapore, and the community of Silicon Valley right here in Africa. This is now possible. And Iyinoluwa Aboyeji, co-founder of Flutterwave and Delaware, two of Africa's biggest tech success stories, two of the very few African unicorns, is building something like that. He told me he was building something specifically designed to solve this problem, and I was invited to come see it. What he is building is a digital-free zone, not the kind you are thinking of, no shipping containers, no factories. This is a free zone specifically built for startups. When startup founders think about incorporation, they think about one place, Delaware. And honestly, there are real reasons for that. According to Silicon Valley Bank, more than 2/3 of Fortune 500 companies are incorporated in Delaware. And most high-growth technology startups are incorporated there as well. Investors trust it, VCs require it, and Y Combinator built its whole model around it. So naturally, founders followed. Then came Estonia. When Nigerian banned crypto trading in 2021, founders needed a safe harbor, and they needed it fast. Estonia's e-residency program, which launched in 2014 as the world's first, lets you incorporate a company 100% online from anywhere in the world, with access to EU markets immediately after incorporation. So about 137,000 people from 170 countries now hold Estonia e-residencies. Founders went there because they could and because that was accessible to them. And then there came Dubai. Dubai's free zones offer something very specific: 0 personal income tax, and for qualifying companies, 0 corporate tax, 100% foreign ownership, full profit repatriation. That means you could take your money out of the country. No local sponsor required. You can see why thousands of founders relocated from around the world to start or to grow their business in Dubai. So that's the map. Delaware for US investors, Estonia for EU access and digital simplicity, Dubai for 0 tax and prestige. These are the options most founders know. And yes, we have Singapore. Now, there is a new option, one that is built specifically for founders to build global companies from Africa, one that exists right here on the continent. Itana isn't just a legal structure, it's a physical place inside Alero city in Lagos, not far from Dangote's refinery and the site that has been a mark for the new international airport. There is real infrastructure, roads, street lights, fast internet connectivity, the things you need to actually build, not just to exist on paper. Just hear it from Iyinoluwa Aboyeji himself.
Digital special economic zone that's nested inside Alero. So in terms of, even though we're digital, meaning that not every customer of Itana actually has to be here and have land here like in other free zones. We actually still are required by law to have a physical presence somewhere, and we've chosen to put that physical presence in Alero. And the reason for that, of course, is because of the live work benefits in addition to the free zone benefits. So the benefits with the logistics, the fact that they have the fastest internet in Nigeria, 1 GB per second speed, the fact that we have accommodation, which we'll get to see. There's also some benefit with the connectivity with some of the logistics parks and stuff like that. And then you still have all the other proximities. So far, Itana we've been operating as a free zone for the last 2.5 years. And we've incorporated 40 companies so far that have now actually incorporated their business in Itana. Many of them, we have a small office here and we have an apartment that people use, or several apartments that people use, but we're actually constructing the actual campus. It's supposed to be 240,000 square meter campus just off the main boulevard opposite Wellington. And the idea for that is it's going to house large-scale businesses as they grow. Now, the core of the idea behind Itana is we want to make it easy, particularly for young people, to be able to export digital services from here. So the idea is if you're a software developer or you're a marketer or you make movies or something, you want to be able to incorporate a company here and then do business all over the world, exporting digital services and products without necessarily maintaining a physical presence, because the vast majority of your work is not exactly physical. This is a paradigm that, as you can see, the oil and gas people enjoy and all the other people enjoy, but hasn't quite been something that the digital economy folks enjoy. I'm going to try my best, because I know it's been a long day and we're very tired, to not drag on. There's a lot of information.
It's very interesting, so please.
Lots of interesting information about Itana. So you can go on the website itana.africa, and it's possible for you to actually register. We do all the processing of the paperwork right here in the zone. We have members of our team who stay in the zone 24/7. We also are able to work with Alero to do things like transshipments. So if you want to ship stuff in, we can do that together with Alero. And then we also have other benefits that we're able to do. But right now, we're very focused on startups. One of our flagship programs is Accelerate. So Accelerate basically is an accelerator program where we attract startups to come and start their lives in Itana. So they come in, we work with them to help them build their businesses. We've had 2 or 3 businesses hit the $10 million mark as part of Accelerate. And one of them is actually flipping into FMM. Yes. Is flipping into Itana. So we're seeing a lot of things here. And the strategy for us is really, when you think about why Combinator managed to do with Delaware, I think 2 years ago, 40,000 companies from Nigeria primarily were incorporated in Delaware, right? And what we're trying to do is basically provide an alternative to Delaware, because
After a very long day at Itana, I had questions. So I got to have a much needed conversation with Iyinoluwa Aboyeji. I asked him straight, why did you build this? What problems were you actually trying to solve? And here is our conversation.
So the idea was basically, when we started about 10 years ago, there were a bunch of things we had to do a certain way, even if they weren't optimal. And that was just because that was where capital was coming from. So for example, we had to incorporate Delaware companies, right?
Yeah.
Because US capital felt more comfortable with us being Delaware companies. They were worried about rule of law in Nigeria. We had to largely build our businesses in a very particular fashion. You understand what I'm saying? where there wasn't any, we had to be a dual company. So American in the eyes of the law and the investors, but also Nigerian in terms of who we served, right?
Yeah.
There was no real allowance for thinking of ourselves as serving the world.
Yeah.
We had to be Nigerian versions of X. So those were the boxes that we had when we started. And, by the grace of God, some of us were able to shatter a few of those boxes. But the one that remained niggling, but has now become a red alert issue, is the issue of domiciliation, right? So you have all these companies that are, for all intents and purposes, US companies, but operating in Nigeria. And there's usually nothing wrong with that. But the problem you ultimately run into when it's time for you to exit is that you now have to pay the taxes.
True.
And those taxes, as somebody who's actually gotten money out of his state a couple of times, those taxes are quite heavy.
Yeah.
Right? And with the new tax law, they're going to be on both sides.
Yes.
So really, this is an attempt to help founders to be able to, get ahead of that issue. Right? Because if you're building for success, you should have a clear picture of what success will cost you.
Yeah, plan ahead.
And the truth of the matter is that right today, success will cost you quite a lot, right? So even if you're successful, you'll have that. Then second, the other two reasons why we started Itana was infrastructure. Like when I was growing up in the ecosystem, at the time, the ecosystem watering hole was 6th floor of CC Hub at White House.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to meet anybody in the ecosystem, you just went to the 6th floor of CC Hub. But obviously, as we grew, that became impracticable. But it doesn't mean that, and with COVID, that those gaps now became even wider. But the reality of the matter is that, communities still need physical spaces that represent them and who they are.
True.
And so a big part of what we're trying to do at Itana is to actually create a space where founders fully in the ecosystem can go to and think of it as, okay, if I want to meet tech people, this is where I go. Because you need spaces like that.
Yeah.
And then I'll say finally, it's really about helping businesses to grow. But doing it in a way that allows them to build global businesses from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Right? So I think, back then, Y Combinator was very much sort of the accelerator that we all had to go to. And as a result, they had certain rules about where we could incorporate, what we could do, all that. Now we live in a world where, they're not quite as interested in the rest of the world as they used to be. So where we end up on the scale is really that we now have the freedom to go and solve our own problems.
Yeah.
As opposed to the problems they found interesting.
Yeah.
And in solving those problems, we can find global markets for those solutions.
Yeah.
And we should be setting up these businesses to be able to co-pursue those Pan-African and global markets.
You remember when the government banned crypto trade in Nigeria, and a lot of this startup went to incorporate in Estonia and Cyprus? Mm-hmm. And that got me thinking that the Cyprus ecosystem was kind of already set up in a way that you could incorporate without having to be in the country. Mm-hmm. And right now, Itana has two sides to it from my own perspective. Mm-hmm. It has a digital side where you can incorporate and we don't have to even come to the country. Mm-hmm. And then have the next side, which is the physical side, which is currently still being worked on. So let's focus a little bit on the digital side of the business of it. Mm-hmm. What would you say that, like a founder that is starting out right now with Itana being, in the mix now, have to think about when they want to incorporate or want to start up?
Yeah, so one thing I would say, I don't know that the team would like me saying this, is that Itana is not for every founder, at least not in its current form. Okay. Like maybe that might change in the future. But right now, Itana is only for businesses that are thinking about exporting services.
Oh.
So if you, and it's a function of your structure, right? So for example, if you're a small business, you're a startup, and you have your headquarters in Delaware, investors' money is coming in. today, what you're probably doing is pouring in the investor money into your Nigerian entity, which subjects you to transfer pricing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you could actually just do the same thing in Itana, and you don't have to pay corporate income tax on the upside.
In Nigeria.
In so long as you're in Itana,
Okay.
and provided your client is the company abroad.
Oh, so the structure here is that the company will cooperate as a Nigerian entity in internal, and then the entity in the US for the same company will be the client. Yes. I see.
So that just makes you more efficient. Now, but the typical use case is I'm exporting services, right? So I'm working for companies abroad, or I'm selling my technology across the continent, or now your 30% of your sales are allowed to come from Nigeria.
Yeah.
But only that much, right? 70% has to come from
Outside.
outside.
So that basically means that a lot of startups that focused on Nigeria without any plan for global expansion are kind of removed from that part.
Well, yeah, I mean, but again, the question is, as a startup, should you not be focused on global expansion from day one, right?
True.
You know, I always say the difference between thinking geographically versus thinking demographically versus thinking psychographically. And the reality is that anybody who's thinking geography is doesn't understand what's going on.
Isn't planning to really make
You understand what I'm
tech.
saying?
Yeah.
Doesn't even understand what's going on in tech, right? Can't see the opportunities.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, if you're thinking demographically, it helps, but at the end of the day, the holy grail is to think psychographically.
So expand.
Find other people who have similar patterns
Yeah.
to you and see whether your technology can work with them as well.
Someone said that Itana is a Accelerate Africa thing. So as an investor, right, they don't, this Accelerate Africa thing, so I don't see how I should. So my question with them was, if you were to invest in a startup right now, do you have like a plan structure with which you see the startup in, like putting their governance together, and how do you see Itana play in that space, right? And I'm like, Itana is a Accelerate Africa thing. What gave, two questions, what gave them that perspective, and how can investors start thinking differently about?
I don't really know where that perspective comes from. I mean, you'll have to ask them to say, okay, what do you mean by Itana is an Accelerate Africa thing? But I'll say what I know, like on the basis of just the data and the math. First of all, if you're an investor and you're investing in a US company with a Nigerian holdco, you're not going to get your money out, even if you make it.
Okay.
Like, because the company is going to be paying 45% taxes in America.
Yeah.
Plus whatever taxes Nigeria would also impose. So it's malpractice, quite frankly.
You're just making money for the government at that point.
Yeah. So, because you're not going to make money, right? So that's number one. Number two, there is a real question of, I would actually argue it's the other way around, which is Accelerate Africa is an eternal thing, right? Because what we're trying to do with Accelerate Africa is build a pipeline of businesses that demonstrates how Itana can support startups to grow.
Yeah.
Right? Very much like the reality of Delaware investing was that YC popularized it.
Yeah, true.
You understand? If we didn't encounter YC, we wouldn't care. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, given that reality, I would say any investor, you should be taking a look at the Accelerate pipeline, because the reality is one of the best pipelines in the space from a revenue standpoint.
Yeah, the YC of Africa.
It's high quality companies. Everybody's excited about them. They've raised, I think now over $10 million collectively since we started the program 2 years ago. So it's a good pipeline if you want to raise, I'll say finally that, look, at the end of the day, we didn't get to this position of being one of the few investors on the continent that actually returns capital. Are being silly.
Yeah, totally.
So,
sure.
if,
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that structure, because I think Nigerian startup or even the entire ecosystem tend to do what they see others doing because they tend to play safe, right? And so everyone incorporates in Delaware. Right now, a lot of the crypto guys are incorporated in Estonia and Cyprus. So everyone that wants to set up crypto startup is doing that. And this structure that you just explained, talked about, was that, having your own startup in the US as a client of your incorporation in Nigeria. So the question is, how does exit looks like for that kind of?
And then he said something I want you to hear clearly, because this is exactly the thing that nobody explains when they tell you go and incorporate in Delaware. This is a very important piece of information for you right now.
That's a great question. So the US, if you incorporated in the US, they have this, they call it 83B election.
Yeah.
Which allows you to earn the first 50 million, I think, tax-free.
Yeah.
So you have to make that election, right? However, it doesn't apply to you if you're not US residents, because you don't pay taxes there.
And almost all the startup are not residents, so it doesn't apply
So you
to
see what I mean? So it doesn't apply to you. So you're going to pay taxes on all the money that you have.
Yeah.
Second of all, in Itana, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't pay federal taxes, that includes capital gains, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you incorporate a Nigerian entity and you exit, based on the new tax law, the capital gains is still taxed locally as well. So you still have to pay, I think, 10% or 15%
on that in Nigeria.
On that in Nigeria. So for me, we built it or not to make math sense to people, and it does.
10%, 45% you choose.
Simple.
Okay. So
and that doesn't even include the 30% withholding tax.
Yeah.
On all US income. So you might very well end up with...
Just give everything back at this point. So let's say you are a European investor and you invested in Nigeria startup with this structure. That means that there's clarity on how you can exit from that structure.
With which structure? The one I'm proposing? Or the one?
The one you're proposing.
There's more clarity, because if you have an entity that has the IP or has the funding and all that in your structure, that's now your parent. And then you have some very clear transfer pricing arrangement with an internal company. You can declare the profits, but it's not taxed nonetheless.
So it doesn't matter if you are Nigerian or you are outside, you get your money out.
That's it.
Very clear. One question is regulatory compliance and protection. So a lot of startups are seeing it on like, he's the kind of person that's traverse all this regulatory situation from Uber. You heard about the story of Uber pulling out of Tanzania because they didn't do what you did for Uber in Nigeria. They didn't share the money, but that is a story for another day. And so that got people talking like, imagine there is a way with some sort of regulatory oversight and protection for a company that doesn't really have the access. Do you see Itana also providing that?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually at the core of what it does, right? Because when you come under the Itana banner, you give us the ability to partner with the regulatory authorities to make rules for you.
Oh, okay. More like lobbying and all that.
It's not just lobbying, it's actually rulemaking, which is very different from lobbying. Because, so the thing about Nigeria is that, except inside, so anything that will become law in Nigeria has to go through the National Assembly.
Yeah.
For the most part, right? Now, but that doesn't quite apply exactly in the zone. In the zone, you have a rulemaking process where you, as a zone authority, or NEPSA, can go and talk to your sister regulatory authority and define exactly how your relationship will work.
Oh, I see.
And that doesn't have to go to the National Assembly.
But you run your own country at that point.
Well, it's with the support of Nigeria, but you understand what I'm saying. So when we all come under this banner, for those of us that are serious about our businesses, what this allows us to do is that we can go and say, okay, how should our relationship with CBN be? Do you understand? How should our relationship with SEC be? And we'll get very clear rules about how
companies that are,
Incorporated
incorporated in the zone are supposed to go about certain things.
Do you see Itana being like, like Tel Aviv or like Silicon Valley or like Singapore, right? In terms of geographically, in terms of the site?
I mean, I think it's going to be its own thing. I am, and I think partially because it's a city without walls, right?
Yeah.
So Itana doesn't have any defined boundary. It's the community of founders that decide to incorporate their companies there. So, and some of them would then choose to use the infrastructure as a service. But it's not as if it's by force.
Lastly, what's one thing that many people don't know about Itana that you wish people just get clearly?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing is that at the end of the day, so I'll use a practical example. Earning a salary, like getting paid remotely.
Yeah.
I think for the longest time, a lot of us have taken enforcement lightly. And for many people, this is going to bite them eventually. What Itana allows you to do is to create a stable environment where you can plug in to solve those types of compliance problems that you might have. For example, if you get paid abroad, right, maybe you get paid $13,000, you can actually ask to be placed under an Itana EOR, employer of record, who will then handle all your local paperwork. You understand what I'm saying? For a fee, of course. And then the outputs, right, because it's in the free zone, is actually profitable to you.
Do you get to keep more of what you make?
That's it. I think once people look at it from that perspective, a lot of things are a lot easier.
Especially for founders that every nickel and dime matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I want to be clear with you because honest information is more useful than hype. Itana in its current structure is most powerful for businesses that are exporting services. 70% of your revenue needs to come from outside of Nigeria. So if you are a purely local market business right now with no global ambition, this may not be the right fit for you at the moment. But here's the question he asked me, and is one I think every founder should sit with right now. Should any tech startup not be thinking about global expansion from day one? And for the founders who are, there are companies that have already made that move.
So Itana is a digital free zone specifically designed in Nigeria for digital finance and service-oriented businesses to be able to incorporate, bank, and operate from Nigeria pan-Africanly and globally.
My advice for people doing business or wanting to do business in Nigeria is aim big, shoot for the stars. There's so much to be done and there's not enough people that truly get stuck in here. So take the leap, move to Nigeria, have Itana help you out, and just go for it.
The digital free zone is real. It is live. It is available to every founder anywhere in the world right now without you having to set foot in Nigeria. You can incorporate online, open a Pan-African bank account, access tax advantages, and start operating as an internal company from wherever you are today. The physical infrastructure is still being built, is still being developed, and honestly, that is an opportunity, not a reason to wait. There are apartments for founders, fully functional apartments. You can literally live here while you build, close to founders, close to infrastructure, close to community you are building with.
Mostly going to be for people who train or people who work during the week here. Not necessarily for, but then if you're married or whatever, you just take a one bed or a studio, and then you work your way up here.
If you're building anywhere in the world, what I know for sure is this: you owe it to yourself to understand the incorporation options before you default to Delaware, before you incorporate somewhere else by habit or by convenience, or because that is just what everyone you know have done. The vision isn't just Lagos, it is a network. A founder in Nairobi, a founder in Accra, a founder in Kigali, using the same legal structure, the same banking system, the same community, the same protection. That is massive. A city without walls, built by founders, built by builders, for builders.